Warmest welcome and thank you everyone for joining today's October Nationwide Study meeting.
With the further easing of the COVID-19 safety measures, SGS will be gradually having more physical activities to be restored as we are looking forward to welcome members back to our centres. Especially in the coming weeks, all the 31 zones will be holding their respective general meeting. This will be the gathering of leaders and members having to strive and achieve victories in 2022, coming together to share their breakthroughs, encouraging and inspiring each other. It will be a wonderful platform for our family members, relatives and friends to learn about the wonderful philosophy of Nichiren Buddhism. Let's strive to reach out to them and bring them to the Zone General Meeting, shall we? Now, today we are studying Ikeda Sensei's lecture, Buddhism of the Sun, Illuminating the World, under the series Towards a Century of Health, Part 3, Accumulating the Treasures of the Heart, Wisely Creating Value Each Day. We will be making reference to this study booklet that contains the lecture starting from page 43. Man Division Chief Hai Li and I will be conducting this study session.
Good day, everyone. In the beginning of the lecture, Sensei states, please turn to page 43. The Soka Gakkai was established through the vow of mentor and disciple shared by our founding president, Tsunei Saburo Makiguchi, and his successor, second president, Josei Toda. They cherished the great wish for Kosen Rufu, which is the wish of Nichiren Daishonin, and stood up resolutely to achieve it. The Soka Gakkai spirit shines with eternal brilliance in their momentous struggle of selfless devotion to propagating the mystic law without begrudging their lives. Here, Sensei reminded us on the founding spirit of the Soka Gakkai, and he continues to share how we, as Soka Gakkai members who treasure lives the most based on the Daishonin's teaching, should live our lives. Because our lives are infinitely precious, what matters is how and for what purpose we use them. Ultimately, this means choosing to live based on the philosophy of respect for all people taught in the Lotus Sutra and continuing to walk the great path of Kosen Rufu and life. It is to dedicate our lives to the mystic law, to Kosen Rufu, and to fulfilling our mission, all supremely noble aims. This is the essence of faith for health and long life. The Chinese character of the word mission literally means how we use our life. Now, both founding presidents, Makiguchi Sensei and second president Toda Sensei, strive relentlessly, pouring out their entire life in the founding years of the Soka Gakkai and after Second World War to advance Kosen Rufu, striving to fulfill the decree of Nichiren Daishonin. Through their lives, they show us that we can remain young at heart when we keep striving. Kosen Rufu is an eternal struggle between the Buddha and devilish forces. In fulfilling our mission for Kosen Rufu, we will definitely and constantly meet with challenges and obstacles. That is why Nichiren Daishonin states, I quote, "Strengthen your faith day by day and month after month. Should you slacken in your resolve even a bit, devils will take advantage." Unquote. It is crucial to keep moving forward no matter what. If our spirits grow old and we start to retreat, we'll be unable to defeat the negative functions that seek to impede us. Furthermore, there's no end to our mission for Kosen Rufu. And Sensei teaches in the lecture. Please turn to page 45. The Daishonin promises that through Buddhist practice, we will grow younger. Those who remain dedicated to their lofty mission of Kosen Rufu, regardless of their age, will continue developing themselves and expanding their lives with a youthful spirit, and they will come to enjoy lives of complete fulfillment and satisfaction. In this lecture, Sensei further delved into the essence of faith and wisdom for leading a long and healthy life by studying passages from Nichiren Daishonin's writings. Let's seek out from Sensei.
The first Gosho passage Sensei quoted in the lecture is from The Gift of Rice. Please turn to page 45. Life is the foremost of all treasures. It is expounded that even the treasures of the entire major world system cannot equal the value of one's body and life. Even the treasures that fill the major world system are no substitutes for life. Although the name of its addressee and the date of the composition is unknown, it is believed to be written during the period when Nichiren Daishonin was living in Mount Minobu. Life at Mount Minobu was harsh, and Daishonin and his disciples were often in need of food and other provisions. Fortunately, he had a loyal group of lay supporters who helped provide him with the necessities. The title, The Gift of Rice, derives from the opening passage of the letter, in which the Daishonin gives thanks for the offerings made. It also indicates the theme of this letter, which addresses the spirit of offering in Buddhism. While sages of old practice offering in actuality, giving their very lives for Buddhism, ordinary people in the present age practice offering in principle, giving what sustains or is for value to their lives. The Daishonin thus equates the polished rice he has received to life itself. Ultimately, the Daishonin says, earnest resolve is what makes offering or almsgiving in Buddhism a meaningful act. Let us all have the same spirit as we make our contribution in this month of October, the month of members' financial contribution. In this letter, The Gift of Rice, the Daishonin teaches life preciousness and worth, stating, I quote, whether one has wealth or not, no treasure exceeds the one called life, unquote. He also writes that earnest resolve is what enables ordinary people to attain Buddhahood. This is a very important passage, one that Mr. Makiguchi also underlined in his copy of the Daishonin's teaching. The Daishonin declares, I quote, even the treasures that fill the major world system are no substitute for life, unquote. Nothing is more valuable than a person's life. Nichiren Buddhism set forth a profound and luminous way of life, teaching that we should make respect for life's dignity and worth our first priority. Sensei in his lecture states, please turn to page 46. We of the Soka Gakkai are spreading the humanistic principle of Nichiren Daishonin's Buddhism of the Sun throughout the world. Believing in the Buddha nature of each person, we make wholehearted efforts out of a genuine wish for their happiness. Treasuring each person is the way to carry on the principle of respect for all people and the dignity of life taught in the Lotus Sutra. In another letter on prolonging one's lifespan, addressed to a disciple who was suffering from illness, the Daishonin states, I quote, life is the most precious of all treasures. Even one extra day of life is worth more than 10 million ryo of gold. One day of life is more valuable than all the treasures of the major world system, unquote. Here, the Daishonin stresses life preciousness and encourages us to live it to the fullest.
Sensei shared in the lecture that the profound awakening Mr. Toda experienced while in prison during World War II led to the modern-day revival of the mission of the Bodhisattva of the Earth to spread Buddhism and its teachings of respect for life. From the beginning of 1944, in addition to chanting Nam Myo Honge Kyo in his prison cell, Mr. Toda devoted time to reading and contemplating the true essence of the Lotus Sutra. As he continued to chant Daimuku earnestly, he awakened to the truth that the Buddha is life itself. He also realized that he had been among those entrusted with the propagation of Buddhism in the latter day of the law during the ceremony in the air described in the Lotus Sutra. This profound conviction took form in Mr. Toda's heart, and around the time that Mr. Makiguchi died in prison for his beliefs. Sensei states, please turn to page 47. As successors of Presidents Makiguchi and Toda, we too were born together into this world as Bodhisattvas of the earth, having vowed to spread Buddhism and its philosophy of the dignity of life and respect for all people. Valuing the life of each person based on the Lotus Sutra's teaching that everyone possesses the Buddha nature is the heart of our efforts for Kosen Rufu. At the same time, because each of our lives is so precious, we should aim to live them to the fullest and accomplish our missions. The distinctions in benefits, chapter 17 of the Lotus Sutra states, our wish is that in future ages we may use our long lives to save living beings. Now, in the Lotus Sutra, the Buddha who attained enlightenment in the remote past uses his long life to fulfill his great vow to lead all people to enlightenment. It is by making the same vow as the Buddha to use our long lives to save living beings and striving to carry it out that the Bodhisattvas of the earth walk the path of oneness of mentor and disciple. In our context, this is the determination and prayer to continue persevering no matter what and dedicating our lives to helping and supporting others.
In this part of the lecture, Sensei explained that living healthy, long life is something we achieve through exercising wisdom. Chanting Nam Myoho Renge Kyo is the foundation for this, as the mystic law is the great beneficial medicine for all life's ill. And health comes from wisdom. For example, getting sufficient sleep is critical to maintaining health. Wisely do what's necessary to get a good night rest. Going to bed as early as possible and not becoming too worn out are an expression of wisdom arising from our determination in faith. Sensei in the lecture continues. Please turn to page 50. It's also important to chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, specifically to lead a healthy, long life. Pray to remain in good condition and keep the devils of illness at bay so that you can accomplish the great vow you promised to fulfill in this lifetime. Pray with the determination to stay healthy and live long for the sake of your loved ones, your fellow members, and Kosan Rufu. The all-embracing prayer to lead others to happiness will be communicated directly to the Gohonzon and will activate the protective functions of the universe. The sincerity of our efforts for Kosen Rufu, even if unacknowledged by others, is known to the Daishonin. It will without a doubt adorn our life with tremendous benefit and good fortune. The treasure of the heart that we have accumulated through long years of Buddhist practice will never perish. The Daishonin also writes, I quote, more valuable than treasures in the storehouse are the treasures of the body, and the treasures of the heart are the most valuable of all, unquote. Here, Sensei explains. Please turn to page 52. The treasure of the storehouse, material wealth, and the treasures of the body, such as physical health, practical abilities, and social position, are not enduring. But the treasures of the heart are engraved in our lives and endure not only throughout this existence, but eternally. That's why the Daishonin urges us to strive to accumulate the treasures of the heart. As people who embrace the mystic law, we can accumulate new treasures of the heart every single day. Treasures of the heart are the qualities we develop through deepening our faith. It is none other than the never defeated life state imbued with the courage of the Lion King, profound wisdom to perceive the truth, inexhaustible life force, and warm compassion for others. And these treasures of the heart will remain indestructible in the three existence of our life. How do we accumulate it? It is by applying resolute faith based on the strategy of the Lotus Sutra in every endeavor we have, especially when we challenge our karma, obstacles, and difficulties in our life. Seeking out from our mentor of Buddhism, Nichiren Daishonin, through the Gosho, and our mentor of life, Ikeda Sensei, through his faith guidance, he will give us the wisdom, what we need to do, how to do it, and the reason we are doing it. It is also through participating in SGS activities that we will be able to learn and be encouraged by our fellow comrades through their experience on the correct perspective of our Buddhist faith and practice. It enables us to accumulate the treasure of the heart. Not only we are able to establish a life state of absolute happiness, we are able to develop the life state that has the ability to lead others to happiness as we exert ourselves in the all-encompassing act of practice for oneself and others.
Next, Sensei quoted the passage from the record of the orally transmitted teachings. Please turn to page 53. The words 4 sides of the treasure tower stand for birth, aging, sickness, and death. We use the aspects of birth, aging, sickness, and death to adorn the towers that are our bodies. And while in these 4 states of birth, aging, sickness, and death, we chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, we cause them to waft forth the fragrance of the 4 virtues or 4 paramitras. Nam stands for the paramita of happiness, Myoho for the paramita of true self, Renge for the paramita of purity, and Kyo for the paramita of eternity. The above passage is Nichiren Daishonin's explanation on one of the key points in chapter 11 of the Lotus Sutra, the emergence of the treasure tower. This is also the passage that Ikeda Sensei quoted in his second lecture in Harvard University on 24th September 1993, titled Mahayana Buddhism and 21st Century Civilization. Sensei explains here that birth, aging, sickness, and death are the 4 fundamental human sufferings which none of us can avoid. The teachings of Buddhism were expounded to enable people to overcome these sufferings. Buddhism offers the way for all people to attain a life state pervaded by the 4 noble virtues of eternity, happiness, true self, and purity. Those who base their lives on the mystic law have nothing to fear. Aging, sickness, and death become priceless treasures adorning the treasure tower of our lives. The passage from the orally transmitted teaching states that the 4 sufferings comprise the 4 sides of the treasure tower. Through the power of the mystic law, the Daishonin says, even the 4 sufferings of birth, aging, sickness, and death can be transformed into the fragrant breezes of eternity, happiness, true self, and purity through chanting Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, thereby enhancing the brilliance of the treasure tower of our lives.
The 4 virtues of eternity, happiness, true self, and purity are also known as the 4 noble qualities of the Buddha's life, and it refers to the supreme state we attain as human beings, a state of absolute freedom and happiness. Eternity means that the state of Buddhahood inherent in the life of the Buddha and all living beings is eternal throughout the 3 existences of past, present, and future. It refers to the dynamism of life that is ceaselessly renewing itself, the creative evolution of life that breaks through all stagnation. Happiness is a state of ease free from suffering, It refers to the joy of life as it pulses dynamically from moment to moment. It also corresponds to having a fully rounded character that imparts joy to all around us. True self refers to an autonomous strength that nothing can destroy that we inherently possess. It is a state of freedom as vast as the universe, in which we can enjoy our true or greater self. While purity refers to the activity of purifying the narrow egoism of our lesser self through the powerful life force of our greater self. So no matter how polluted and corrupt the age, our lives function purely. Here, Sensei in his lecture teaches. Please turn to page 54. These four virtues constitute the life state of Buddhahood. It is the very state of absolute happiness and might also be described as the attractive aspect of a well-developed character. In the above passage from the orally transmitted teaching, the Daishonin correlates the four virtues to Nam-myoho Renge Kyo. For us, the key to attaining a life state of eternity, happiness, true self, and purity is the practice of chanting Nam-myoho Renge Kyo ourselves and encouraging others to do the same. Furthermore, when we are assailed by the four sufferings, is precisely the time to strengthen our faith and chant strongly to the Gohonzon. Let's be confident that by doing so, we will develop the boundless life state of eternity, happiness, true self, and purity. What matters when we are faced with the challenges of the four sufferings is to have the fighting spirit to offer persevering, tenacious prayers continuously and chanting abundant resolute Daimoku without giving up. The Daishonin assure us that there is tremendous benefit in a single Daimoku writing in the Gosho. Please turn to page 55. When we have faith such as this, believing that our lives are in fact Myoho Renge Kyo or the Lotus Sutra, then it is taught that one chanting of Nam-myoho Renge Kyo is equivalent to one recitation of the entire Lotus Sutra, carried out just as the sutra prescribes with the correct understanding of its meaning, that 10 chantings are equivalent to 10 recitations of the sutra. 100 chantings are equivalent to 100 recitations. 1,000 chantings are equivalent to 1,000 recitations, all carried out just as the sutra prescribes.
In the letter the Daishonin sent from Mount Minobu in 1275 to an elderly couple, lay priest Ko and his wife, lay nun of Ko, who live on Sado Island, he declares, "No place is secure. Be convinced that Buddhahood is the final abode." Sensei in the lecture explains that the final abode refers to the safe haven one finally reaches through seeking the way. It is the indestructible life state of Buddhahood imbued with eternity, happiness, true self, and purity that we strengthen within us, an everlasting palace of peace and security. How reassuring this is, as all of us individually and humanity collectively are facing up and tackling issues and challenges that are pounding the world. From health challenges, both physical and mental, to inflation due to worsening economic conditions, to natural disasters due to climate change, and etc. As long as we base on faith and practice to challenge whatever situation we have, we will definitely achieve a breakthrough and in the process creates utmost value. Sensei quoted President Toda's guidance in the lecture. Please turn to page 57. Mr. Toda said, "In life, hope is crucial. As long as you have hope, you can advance. You can take on any challenge. You can continue striving no matter what. You also need perseverance. Those who can persevere will not succumb to complaint and negativity. Those who keep moving forward brim with positive energy. If you forge ahead cheerfully with steadfast resolve, you are certain to win. He also said, if you have a powerful life force, you can transform a state in which you complain about your problems, suffering, poverty, and other misfortune into a life state filled with light and joy. Now let us invite YWD chapter leader Tan Mei Yi from Region Headquarters 9 to share with us her faith experience in triumphing over life challenges.
Hello everyone, I am Tan Mei Yi, Young Women Division Chapter Leader of Tampines North Chapter in Region Headquarters 9. When I was born, only my mother was chanting. The rest of my family took up faith later, and currently everyone is exerting themselves in the advancement for Kosen Rufu. Growing up, my mom taught me how to chant to overcome problems at school. As a very slow learner, I was often bullied by my primary school classmates. Through faith, practice, and actively participating in Gaka activities, I grew in my life and developed strength to persevere through my academic years, eventually achieving victory in my studies at university. As an English literature graduate, I faced a lot of skepticism about career prospects, as many view it to be limited or irrelevant in the corporate world. I struggled to find jobs upon graduation, but through this, I established my prime point in faith. After seeking Sensei's guidance and chanting to the Gohonzon for direction, I realized that this was a time for me to grow and expand my life to trailblaze my future. I prayed that I must be able to create value in what I do, wherever I am. I eventually established my career in the banking and finance industry, and though the learning curve was very steep, my prayers to break through my limits and create value in my work were answered. Though the rest of my life was on course, I was deeply confused when it came to matters of the heart. As a result, one of my relationships turned out to be deeply manipulative. I was very lost, and all the toxic negativity made me depressed. In seeking out my mentor Ikeda Sensei for wisdom, I came across a guidance that Sensei says, "Where is happiness to be found? How can we become happy? Happiness is not a question of how you look to others, rather, it is a matter of what you yourself feel inside. It is a deep answering response in your life." I told myself I want to be happy, I don't want to continue like this. I took up responsibility for my personal life and started to pray for a Kosen Rufu partner, someone who will work for the happiness of oneself and others with me. The wheels of change started to take effect the moment I poured my life into my prayers, and that's when I discovered my then partner's double life. It was one of the darkest periods of my life, and I was emotionally traumatized picking up the pieces. I went about work and life looking normal, but I was struggling with depressive mood swings, anger, and a lot of resentment. Every day I chanted and read Sensei's and Dai Shonin's writings to fight against the fundamental darkness within. Yet despite all the struggles, I was deeply grateful to the Gohonzon, as I knew my prayers to clarify the true nature of the relationship had been answered, and I was protected from further pain. I started to date again with my first boyfriend after 7 years apart. Though we decided to try again, it wasn't easy as time had worn us down and we carried our own emotional scars. Our relationship went through the biggest test in 2020 at the peak of COVID. His ex-colleague had an unhealthy obsession for him and started harassing and stalking me on social media. She was very upset that my boyfriend did not return her affections. She was also a blogger and took to social media bullying. We don't know each other at all, so it was so unthinkable that a stranger could post all sorts of lies about me on social media. She also targeted my family, friends, and my work. I received accusations and even threats from her on all my social media accounts. Her harassment and work burnout during COVID took a toll on my mental health. It also triggered my past trauma and drove me into depression. I was deeply frustrated by her actions and was becoming consumed by so much anger and negativity. It also affected my relationship with my boyfriend. I fought the strong urge to retaliate on social media and redress my grievances based on faith. I couldn't bring myself to seek justice through an online war, which would only cause more hurt to even more people. This was also during the peak of the COVID-19 pandemic when everyone was struggling with lockdown isolation. I refused to contribute even more negativity to an already depressing online space. During this time, I read The New Human Revolution on the Osaka incident when Ikeda sensei was unjustly attacked by the media and held in my heart to be in the same undefeated spirit as sensei. I was reminded that my mission is to create positive value as sensei's disciple and as a practitioner of Nichiren Buddhism. I do not want to become a revengeful person, so I must seek justice with wisdom, courage, and compassion based on faith. I channel all my grievances into chanting Daimoku 1 to 3 hours every day, elevating my life condition to remain strong despite all the viral posts, and for the wisdom to seek justice with the best outcome. As I chanted, I renewed my vow for Kosen Rufu and to achieve happiness for oneself and others. I reflected that I must look beyond all the toxic negativity to look deep in my life. I learned to manifest the wisdom to see that there were 3 lives hurting, me, my boyfriend, and the blogger. It wasn't just all about me anymore. I started chanting to overcome my anger and resentment towards the blogger and to transform all this negativity within me by praying for her happiness instead. I started to see her as another human being who was also struggling deeply in her relationship life, and in this incident, too lost in her emotions to discern right from wrong. Concurrently, I prayed that I must restore the dignity in my life and my name must be cleared. I resolutely shut away from the public eyes of social media and focused on chanting that all 3 lives can move on quickly instead of being stuck in this negativity. The harassment and postings eventually stopped after 6 months, and the blogger also publicly apologized for her actions. Through all this, I also learned to have heartfelt dialogues with my boyfriend. At the height of the crisis, when our spirits were at breaking point, I manifested the courage to tell him that no matter what, let's turn this negative situation into a positive one so that next time, whether we are together or not, we will look back on this as a point of transformative growth in our lives. My boyfriend was encouraged and touched by my words, and that moment became a turning point in our relationship. We learned to open our hearts and appreciate our relationship even more as a shared life mission. After fiercely fighting the negativity in my life, I could feel deep in my bones that I had extracted poison from within my life and transformed it into medicine. It was then I realized why I was going through all this pain and suffering. Transforming karma and turning poison into medicine was not going to be a walk in the park. The next step was healing, and faith was my driving force to recovery. It gave me the strength to stay on course. As I dedicated myself to Kosen Rufu activities and engaged in heart-to-heart dialogue with my YWDs, I appreciated how important it is to encourage the person in front of me to persevere in their own life battles and overcome their own heartbreaks. All it takes is to give another a spark of hope. I also recalled how Ikeda sensei took beautiful pictures and wrote poems to encourage others. I started photography to heal myself through creative expression that can inspire others. With every step forward, I truly felt in my life a deep appreciation of my personal growth and realized that what it means to transform poison into medicine, to creating value in the process and to feel a deep sense of joy. Looking back, my prayers to be happy were fully answered as I overcome my relationship struggles. My experiences also taught me to become very aware of cyberbullying and mental health struggles, issues that have become even more acute in this day and age. It made me reflect even more on the importance of manifesting wisdom, courage, and compassion in our daily lives to create hope and happiness wherever we are, online or physical. This is as Ikeda sensei says, just as the pure white lotus flower blooms unsought in muddy waters, our lives, which are supremely noble, can continue to shine even amid life's harshest realities. I am determined to be the new human revolution generation to strive towards 2030 with Sensei, fulfilling my mission as a Bodhisattva of the earth that can create a difference in others' life.
Thank you very much, Mei, for your truly encouraging sharing. Your wonderful testimony has shown us exactly what Sensei mentioned in his lecture.
Now, in today's study, we have learned the following points. 1. We will remain young at heart as long as we keep striving for Kosen Rufu. 2. Basing on the wisdom derived from our practice, we can create utmost value and accumulate the treasures of the heart every day. 3. How we can transform the 4 sufferings into the 4 virtues of the Buddha based on earnest faith and practice. This will enable us to manifest the wisdom, life force and courage to surmount any challenges in life and triumph over them. I'd like to conclude today's study session with the following invigorating words from Sensei in the last part of the lecture. Please turn to page 58. With growing urgency, people across the globe are seeking a humanistic philosophy of respect for the dignity of life. That is why our Soka network, committed to the cause of good, has spread far and wide. Dedicating ourselves wholeheartedly to realizing Kosen Rufu, we are sure to enjoy a triumphant life, bringing with the virtues of eternity, happiness, true self, and purity. Now, thank you very much for attending today's study session. Please take good care and stay safe. Now, let us invite General Director to share with us his encouragement.
Hello, it's nice meeting up everyone at this online study. Thanks to Kim Hua, Heidi, Mei Yi for their sharing. There are several key points I have learned from this study session. Number one, our life is the foremost treasure in the universe. The Gosho, Gift of Life, states, life is the foremost treasure. Even the treasures that fill the major world system are no substitute for life, unquote. Number two, one more day of life is worth more than all the treasures in the world. In another Gosho on prolonging one's lifespan, Daishonin states, life is the most precious of all treasure. Even one extra day of life is worth more than 10 million real of gold. One day of life is more valuable than all the treasures of the major world system, unquote. Number three, to treasure life and live happily, we need to have wisdom to stay healthy. Wisdom is essential for both health and long life. Health is not simply the absence of illness. True health is found in a positive attitude towards life that is undefeated by anything. A truly healthy life is creative, one which keeps challenging something and moving forward to expand our horizons. As long as we live, we have to exercise wisdom in our daily lives. For example, taking time to refresh ourselves and resting if we are tired. Good health is something we have to secure for ourselves by acting with prudence and good sense. For us, the key to attaining absolute happiness, excellent physical and mental health is the practice of this faith, and in us carrying out our life's mission as a Bodhisattva of the earth. Aging, death, and sickness, all these are stages of life that will become priceless opportunity for us to adorn the treasure tower of our lives, for us to accumulate the treasures of the heart. I would like to share an unforgettable encounter with Dr. Poon, faced with an incurable illness and death with courage, and was also an inspiration for many young people who came into contact with him. About 10 years back, I accompanied several leaders from Thompson chapter and the MD senior leader for a home visit. Then I met Dr. Poon for the first time, and he had just started on his journey of faith. He was about 60 then, a well-known and very experienced doctor. He had contracted an incurable illness, and he knew the inevitable will happen. His body will become weaker and weaker, and he will lose control of his muscle, mobility, and eventually become bedridden. He could not accept the fact that as a doctor, he had to succumb to such an illness and nothing can be of help. He then turned to religion for answers. What made him decide to take faith eventually in Nichiren Buddhism was because of the members' warmth and sincerity and our positive, life-affirming philosophy of hope and courage. The leaders told him to chant and tap on the power of the Buddhahood in him to find the joy and courage to never be defeated. For several years, he persisted in faith, and the leaders would pay him regular visits, chanting with him weekly, challenging together with him. But his condition deteriorated day by day. He became weaker, losing control over his movement, from being wheel-bound to being bedridden, from talking softly to not able to whisper any words to us. But he never gave up. Though he was bedridden, when he was doing Gongyo, his helper would project the Gongyo text onto a large screen for him to see and to read, that he could chant with his leaders. Though he could not speak, he developed an unique way of communicating with the people around him. By looking at the blinks of his eyes, his helper would be able to decipher the character A to Z and form words or short sentences that Dr. Poon wished to convey. Even in that physical condition, Dr. Poon remained in high spirit and never lament. He once said, "I do not fear death now. I had abandoned the idea of taking my life, and I'm very happy to be able to chant Nam Myo Horen Gekyo." There was once a youth who was very down and wanted to end his life. A leader brought him to see Dr. Poon, and he said to the youth, "Look at me. Can you be worse than me? If I can be happy chanting, you can become happy too." From that day on, the youth changed his perspective of life. Dr. Poon was a great inspiration to him, and he began to treasure his life and exerts himself in his practice, striving in his human revolution to be a better person. As for Dr. Poon, he passed away peacefully more than a year back during the COVID pandemic. Through his strong faith, he had truly fought and lived a courageous and meaningful life. Let us ask ourselves, what is the purpose of striving for good health and longevity? There is a difference between simply living a long life and living a rich and rewarding life. For example, a life can be fulfilled and productive even if it's short by time's measurement. I hope that we can view our life as important and precious so that we can use our lives to the fullest to work for the sake of the law, for the happiness and welfare of our families, our fellow members, and fellow human beings, to accomplish our individual mission and realize our great vow for Kosen-Rufu. What matters most is that we live each day without regrets, moving forward for Kosen-Rufu, that we continue to cherish in our hearts a shining purpose for living, whatever our age may be. Living this way each day is the key to a life of profound satisfaction and fulfillment. In chapter 17 of the Lotus Sutras, titled Distinctions in Benefit, states, "Our wish is that in the future ages, we may use our long lives to save living beings." Unquote. We are all Bodhisattvas of the earth. Let us treasure our lives to live long, healthy, and happy lives, striving in our mission to save all people from sufferings together with Sensei. This October, we will be having our zone general meetings. Let us reach out to people around us, to engage them in hope-filled dialogues, and share with them the great joy and benefit of chanting Nam Myo Horen Gekyo, and invite them to join us at the general meeting. Shall we? In closing, let me quote from the book by Sensei, Towards a Century of Health, the wisdom for leading a long life of good fortune and benefit. Quote, "Those who are not mobile enough to attend meetings can still help advance Kosen-Rufu by taking care of things at home. and someone who's bedridden can communicate their heart with just a smile or through their eyes, which can also sow the seeds of Buddhahood. The sincerity of your efforts for Koh Fu, even if unacknowledged by others, is known to the Daishonin. It will, without a doubt, adorn your life with tremendous benefit and good fortune. The treasures of the heart that you have accumulated through long years of Buddhist practice will never perish. Even if one should die at a relatively young age, or meet a sudden accident, or succumb to dementia, the treasure of the heart one has built as a practitioner of the Lotus Sutras can never be destroyed, as the Nirvana Sutra says, unquote. Sensei is encouraging us, irrespective of our age, we must always continue to practice faith and engage in all activities, including discussion meeting, and accumulate treasures of the heart that will be with us for eternity. Thank you for joining us today. Please take care and stay well. Thank you. See you again. Bye.